Hello and welcome to this in-depth analysis of Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. I am Sanket Kumar Jha, an assistant professor in English at Lalit Narayan Mithila University, Darbhanga. Ode to a Nightingale is one of the most famous odes in English literature. This ode was first published in a journal called Annals of the Fine Arts in 1819. An ode is a poem of address that usually celebrates a person or an object. In this poem, Keats celebrates the nightingale whose song affects him like a drug. It is rich in sensuousness, imagery, and allusions and is representative of Keats's escapism and his negative capability. To learn more about John Keats and his works, please watch my lecture by visiting the link given in the description. Keats was staying with his friend Charles Brown at Wentworth Place, Hampstead. His brother Tom had died of tuberculosis and he was still mourning the death of his brother. But he had also fallen in love with his neighbor, Fanny Brown. According to Charles Brown, a nightingale had built its nest near their house, and Keats was delighted by the nightingale's song. One morning, Keats sat under a plum tree in the garden and remained there for several hours. He eventually returned with some scraps of paper, which, according to Brown, contained the ode to a nightingale. Let us recreate the scene. Imagine Keats sitting in a garden and listening to the song of a nightingale like this one. The first stanza starts now. My heart aches and a drowsy numbness pains my sense as though of hemlock I had drunk. Keats says that there is pain in his heart and his senses are numb as if he had drunk hemlock 1 minute ago. Hemlock is a poison that kills by paralysis. There is simile here, comparison of the numbness of senses to that brought by poison. Numbness means lack of sensation in a part of body. Next line, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains, 1 minute passed and Lethe words had sunk. Keats feels as if he has drank a bottle of opium 1 minute ago. To the drains, that is to the last drop, and hence he has forgotten everything. It feels that his senses have gone Lethe-wards. As per Greek mythology, Lethe is a river in the underworld. After the death of a person, his soul passes through this river and loses all its past life memories. It's not through envy of the happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness. Now the nightingale comes into picture. Keats makes it clear that he is not jealous of the lucky nightingale. Rather, he is excessively happy. So he suggests that his drowsiness, numbness, and forgetfulness are due to his happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. The nightingale is so happy because it sings amongst the trees all day. The poet calls it light-winged because a nightingale is a small bird and has little wings. He calls the nightingale a dryad. Dryad in Greek mythology is a nymph that lives in the trees. A plot is not melodious. Rather, a nightingale makes any plot melodious with its sweet voice. Beech is a green tree. The poet uses it as an adjective. The nightingale sings with a full throat, that is, with all its might, but it does so easily. Stanza second. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. The poet considers wine as a means of escape. A draught is the amount that can be swallowed in a single drink. Vintage wine is made of grapes. The older the wine, the better it tastes, hence long aged. Tasting of flora and the country green, dance and Provençal song and sunburnt mirth. Flora is the goddess of flowers, but here the term is used for flowers themselves. Provence is a region in the south of France known for its wine and a kind of poetic song known as troubadour poetry. The poet wants a drink tasting of flower, greenery, dance, poetry, and warmth of the sun. This is an example of synesthesia, expressing one sensation in terms of another. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blissful Hippocrene. Now the poet wants to drink the entire south with its warmth and mirth. In Greek mythology, Hippocrene was a spring on Mount Helicon. It was formed by the hooves of Pegasus, and its water was supposed to bring poetic inspiration. The poet has personified drink because it is blissful. With beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. The description, beaded bubbles that burst, is picturesque and rich in sensuousness. By world, the poet means the world of human society, work, responsibility, and all that. The poet makes his intention clear. He wants to drink to get lost with the nightingale in a dim forest. Now, stanza third. Fade far away, dissolve and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret. Keats wants to fade out of the world, that is, to disappear very slowly. Unfortunately, his wish got fulfilled. He died of tuberculosis when he was 25 years old only. He wants to forget about weariness, fever, and frustrations of the human world. Here, where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and a spectre thin and dies, Keats presents a sad picture of the world, people sitting around and listening to each other's groan. Palsy is a disease that causes sudden involuntary movements and makes people incapable. In this world, young persons become ill and die. Obviously, Keats here is recalling the death of his brother Tom, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden eye despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes or new love pine at them beyond tomorrow. The world is a place where any kind of thinking leads to sorrow and despair. Neither beauty nor love can survive for long. The poet bewails against the corrosive power of time. Time makes a young person old and kills. It snatches the lustrous eyes of beauty and takes away love. Both beauty and love have been personified here. There is a repetition of the word where in this stanza. This figure is called Anaphora. It refers to the repetition of initial words of a sentence. Now, stanza 4. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his bards, but on the viewless wings of poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retards. Bacchus is the Roman god of wine, who is shown in a chariot drawn by leopards. Here the poet rejects wine and accepts imaginative flight of poetry. Poetry's wings are invisible or viewless. This is obviously a metaphor. Already with thee, tender is the night, and happily the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry face. The next lines are rich in imagery. The queen moon is sitting on her throne. Clearly, it is a personification, and she is surrounded by the starry fairies. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. But there is a contrast. There is no light in the poet's world except the moon rays that filter down through the trees. Verdurous glooms means the darkness that is caused by mossy plants getting in the way of the moon. Now, stanza 5. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness gaze each sweet, wherewith the seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild. Since it is dark, the poet cannot see the flowers or fruits that produce pleasant smell or soft incense in the trees. But in this embalmed darkness or sweet darkness, he can gaze them. He is guessing all kinds of different sweets produced by the season, scent of grass, thicket, fruit trees, white hawthorn, and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid May's eldest child, the coming musk rose full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eve. He names more plants that he smells in the darkness: hawthorn, eglantine, violet, and the musk rose. The poet calls the musk rose the eldest child of May. The dew of the musk rose is intoxicating like wine. He can hear the murmuring of flies also. These lines are rich in sense of sight and sound. Stanza 6 is very pathetic and an emotional outburst. Darkling I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with his full death, called him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to seize upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem becoming a sword. Keats calls the nightingale Darkling, or the daughter of darkness, because nightingales sing mostly in night. He admits that he wanted to die many a times and wrote poetry requesting death to take away his breath. Death has been personified here. Keats thinks it would be rich to die in the middle of the night while listening to the nightingale singing. It appears to Keats that the nightingale is not singing but pouring out its soul in ecstasy. He imagines what would happen if he dies now. The nightingale would keep singing, but he would not be able to listen them. The nightingale would then sing a high requiem. A requiem is the music sung for a dead person, hence it is a metaphor here. Now, stanza 7. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird, no hungry generations treat thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Keats calls the nightingale immortal. Keats calls the younger generation as hungry that feeds on its elder generation. He clarifies that he has used the term immortal for the nightingale's voice, not its body, because all nightingales sing in the same melodious tone. He says that both emperors and clowns listened to the same voice of the nightingale in ancient times that he is listening now. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth when sick for home she stood in tears amid the alien corn, the same that oft times had charmed magic casements opening on the foam of perilous seas in fairyland forlorn. This is an allusion to the biblical character Ruth. Ruth married and moved to a foreign country. Her husband died, and Ruth's mother-in-law told her to return home and get married again. But Ruth did not remarry. She supported her mother-in-law by working in the fields. Eventually, she obeyed her mother-in-law and got married again. Keats further says that the same song has opened many charmed magic windows in distant and dangerous seas. Last stanza, forlorn. The very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my soul self. Adieu, the fancy cannot cheat so well as he is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu, the plenty when them fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now it's buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision or a waking dream? Fled is the music, do I wake or sleep? It is the end. The poet repeats the word forlorn from the stanza 7. It reminds him of how the nightingale has abandoned him. All of a sudden, he comes back to reality, to the normal world. He admits that his attempt to use imagination to transport into the nightingale's world was not very effective. He bids goodbye to the bird. The French word adieu means goodbye for a long time. The bird is gone now. It has flied past the meadows, across the stream, up the hill, and has went to the next valley. Now he cannot hear it at all. He asks a rhetorical question: was this experience just a waking dream, or was it a reality? Thanks for watching. Subscribe and share.